Okay,
Let's go for it.
cool. That works.
Awesome.
Oops.
The good thing.
Oh,
See now.
there you go.
All right, we're good. All right, so let me introduce you. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first science seminar of the semester. That's science seminars are brought to you by the Department of Chemistry and Physics, and here we have with us today one of our own graduate, 2017, was it?
Yep.
Sonya, and this is about, I think this is about the time when Supreme Court Justice Sonya Sotomayor was being nominated. And
Yeah.
so the fun thing was to call, anyway, that's the part inside joke. Okay. So Sonya has gone on to the big place in Texas, Rice University. And she's done exciting things there, and she's so good that they won't let her go. She's now become the interim director of the program that she went into. And so she can tell you about her experiences and how you too can participate in graduate studies after you leave from the terminal. Okay. And I want to remind you that after the seminar, we're going to have lunch with Sonya over in the Joyce Room of the Corner Cafe. So if you want to follow up and ask more questions about, Sonia's life journey and how she got to be, the prestigious interim director of this big university and stuff like that, come and join us there for lunch in the Joyce Room. And you get to know your faculty and stuff like that as well. So it's a good time to do that. If you don't have a meal plan, we can pay for your meal for lunch today. You've got no excuse. Okay, if you need to get out of your class, Dr. Ball will write a note to you for that. Okay, so, no excuses at all. So come join us for lunch. All right, so let's give Sonya a warm welcome here.
Thanks so much, Dr. DeBoer. I'll just pray real quick to start us. Lord, thank you for this day. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your eyes today. Amen. Yeah, so welcome everyone. It's such a joy to get to be back here. It feels surreal to me to be giving the seminar, being once where I was in your seats one time. So I'll talk today about medical innovations that solve global health challenges. This is a little bit of the agenda for today. So I'll give a little bit overview of the RISE 360 Institute for Global Health, which is where I've been for the past 7 years. I'll talk a little bit about my career journey, and then our meat of the talk will be why design effective and affordable devices. And then I'll give a little bit of examples of my work at RISE 360 and then some lessons learned that hope encourages you. So RISE 360 is a global health institute at Rice University in Houston, Texas. Our main thing is trying to innovate for global impact. We do that through several different things. We have global partners, mostly in Africa, but we have like different expressions of how we do that. One is through a global health technologies minor, which is a minor that people can sign up for, and at the end they will get that minor. It includes several classes and some specific courses that they can take and some electives that will be acceptable in the minor. And the main thing is that they get design classes that we give them real problems, real world challenges, and then they get to use their background to come up with solutions for that. And then the other main expression is the Global Health Fellowship, which I will talk a little bit about. But briefly, is a 1 to 2 year post-baccalaureate fellowship. So you just get to work at the university after you graduate. And it is technically meant to be like full-time device development for early career engineers. So a little bit about me. I am currently this long title at the top and also a clinical research engineer. I was asked to fill up a vacancy that came up late last year. So I'm right now also on top of like doing data analysis for some of the stuff that I've been working on. I am giving support for our global health fellows and their technologies. So a little bit of my background, I graduated in 2017, as Dr. DeBoer said, from Laterno. This is a little bit of my involvement here. And yeah, I will talk a little bit about that in the next slides. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Wheels project. No, some. Okay, I don't know how lively is these days, but I was involved in this research project, which we evaluated wheelchairs that were designed for low resource settings, and this was actually like my first global health experience where I realized that people actually created things specifically for low resource settings and not just try to bring things over that we already have. So over there, I created questionnaires for users to rate their wheelchair. How did they like it? What did they like? What did they not like? And then we created questionnaires for clinicians to rate a state of a chair. And hopefully that will be that they could use that over time to see if their wheelchair was still fitting them or if it was just beyond repair and needed to be replaced. So I got to travel to Kenya in summer of 2016 to test this questionnaire at a school for children with disabilities, and that was just an awesome experience. Get to spend time doing research there, getting to have some teamwork, and then just overall international collaborations. And then the summer of 2017, which was after I graduated, I did an Engineering World Health Summer Institute, which I don't know if anyone has heard about EWH. No? Well, they've recently merged with Engineers Without Borders, so it's still up in the air how they're going to launch these summer institutes again. But it's basically meant for students to get an immersion program in a low resource setting to learn how to repair medical equipment. So I did that. And for the first month, we learned the language and practical troubleshooting techniques. So we made this little power supply that changed from AC to DC. I think variable voltage power supply. So that helped that I took circuits in the circuits lab because I knew what I was doing. Some people did not know what they were doing. And during that time, we repaired and troubleshooted over 50 pieces of medical equipment, just getting to work with the biomedical technician of a hospital there, which was like great experience. We got to live there. We actually lived with our technician, so it was like a lot of one-on-one time, and just really get to learn how is it to live there day in, day out, and get to talk to the nurses and to some patients there as well. And then at Rice 360, I started as a global health fellow, as I mentioned before. I worked on 2 different technologies mainly that I will talk about that more later. And then in 2020, I kind of pivoted to this clinical research engineer role, which was moving a little bit away from device development. And my task was to start clinical studies for the devices that we were developing. So it was more of like going to work on my computer, but a lot of collaboration, talk with our partners in different countries and try to set up these clinical studies, which included like IRBs and making documentation, training materials, hiring people. So a lot of these other skills that you might think you might not need, but you do. So just be open about that. And then finally, in late last year, I stepped into this position giving advice to the Global Health Fellows. Oh, and this is my team right now. This was our Christmas card that I made. So why design effective and affordable devices? Why is not what we have like already so good and so cool and can be used anywhere? So current technology is not effective in low resource settings. And some of the things that affect is environmental, high heat, high humidity. In a lot of these settings, there is no like closed AC unit or like heat systems that have air filtration. So really you just go in and like the air that's outside is the air that's inside. And if it's hot outside, it's hot inside. So a lot of these devices are designed to work in like stable conditions, like pristine conditions. So once you put them in the environment that it's not meant to work on, it's of course gonna fail or is gonna fail faster. Infrastructure as well. And we see this day in and day out, especially when we want to say, okay, what do we want to design for? Do we want to go back to the root cause and like fix the power system so there's no blackouts, which is probably really hard to do? Or do we want to do a little bit of both? Like, okay, we're assuming this is what they have, we're assuming this is what they don't have, and try to find something in the middle. There's just like a lot of lack. So power instability, oxygen supply, and then disinfection, sterilization for some of the products. Supply chain. So let's say there's an incubator that, I don't know, give me a hospital here. What are they called? A hospital. Christus. Okay, so Christus wants to donate an incubator that they're not using anymore. And they ship it to Rwanda, but they only ship the incubator. They don't ship the user manual or the consumables, or they don't teach the receiving hospital how to repair it or give them spare parts. And the device is going to break, or it's going to need a change of the air filter at some point. And if they don't have that, a lot of times well-meaning donations just end up in unusable because of this. And finally, the end users. There is high patient to nurse ratios. So even if they have a device, sometimes it's so complex to put together or to use that they end up not using it because it just require constant monitoring and frequent turnover, which makes hard to train consistently and keep training people. So a lot of the times these unusable devices end up in what we call equipment graveyards, which is just where a lot of pieces just go to die. So talking about my work at RISE 360, and mainly I've been working to address neonatal hypothermia. Does anyone know what neonatal hypothermia is? Or anyone? Yeah? Yeah.
Is low body temperature when they're born?
Yes, exactly. So it's when, well, anyone really, just below what we're consider core temperature or good temperature. So the reality is that more than 85% of newborns in hospitals in low resource settings are too cold. And neonatal hypothermia, while not a disease in itself, is just a factor that is highly associated with survival rate. And most of the times, outwardly symptoms of it's actually like a baby's not doing well. And once those present itself, it's often too late to reverse it. And does anyone know what the treatment for neonatal hypothermia is? No? It's literally just giving them heat. It's just providing warmth for the babies. So we, of course, first want to diagnose it, like is the baby too cold, and then treat it, hopefully. So this is one of the devices that I started working on when I started at RISE 360. So Sosa monitor is a bedside tool that continually displays the body temperature to aid clinicians in diagnosis and treatment. So this was our little prototype that we made a real long time ago. And thankfully, this is what it looks like now. So it looks more real device. And here we wanted to just do the bare necessities, like what do we need to diagnose hypothermia? So briefly, it's a digital display that also has visual alarms, and it's a reusable belt to reduce consumables. And it also works, it's a rechargeable battery. So it can be used plugged in the whole time or on battery. So to give you a little bit of a timeline of the development of this device, and this will go into just the reality of how long things take, and also things outside our control, such as the pandemic. So in 2017, I started working there. We developed an in-house prototype. And then we did our first in-human testing in Blantyre, Malawi. We already had collaborators there, so setting this study up actually was not time consuming. So 2018, 2019, we worked with an engineering firm for design for manufacturing. We Rice 360 provided the context. One example of this is that the engineering firm wanted to put like the little two hooks that you put on a vacuum to like wrap the cord around, and we totally shut that down because one, it was moving parts that were going to break at some point, and two, they're annoying. So we said none of that. And a really big innovation that I'm super proud of is we made a reusable silicone belt to so normally this temperature probes are affixed to the baby with stickers, so reflective stickers. So these are, one, a consumable, and two, sometimes they're too harsh for the baby because you're putting an adhesive on a really fragile skin. And two, we wanted to make it reusable. So this took a while to figure out. It looks so pretty and perfect over there, but we just went through a lot of iterations, and we were worried that it was going to slip. So materials, thinking about different materials was really interesting, and also the biocompatibility of it, because it had to be biocompatible with the skin. So in 2020 to 2021, that was, of course, the pandemic. So we were really excited about 2020. That was kind of like our pivotal study, where we eventually tested our improvements on the device. But everything just took longer because of COVID. So we were able to test actually 4 participants at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston in February of 2020. And then I actually went to Malawi February 29th of 2020. And we were evacuated March 13th, I think, of 2020 to come back because of the pandemic. So we actually left our equipment there. The NICU was closed for research, of course, so we didn't know when that was going to open up. But we left the equipment there with our in-country study team with the hopes of, once it opened up, we hopefully wanted it to continue to be tested. And thankfully, that's what happened. It just took way longer. And then we wanted to increase wear time to prove that our belt could be not harmful for the baby for a long time, because normally babies are monitored for temperature for more than 12 hours. So we tested that throughout 2 years, and then we started working on regulatory body documents, and we provided kind of like the clinical testing data and the writing up of all of that. So and then we started developing this international validation studies that support use. So that's when I kind of pivoted towards this clinical research engineer role to start these studies, start talking with collaborators, and get that set up. So 2022 to 2023, we actually had to pivot our regulatory strategy from CE mark, which is like the European Union medical device regulation, towards FDA, just because of different things, like COVID just delayed everything. And then the EU MDR actually changed the way that they would do like regulatory applications. And that just made it really hard to try to go that route. So we pivoted that strategy towards FDA submission. So that meant that we had to basically create some documents again from scratch, and some of them edit them. This was mostly spearheaded by our engineering firm, but we were providing support for that, and then address questions from the FDA. So you submit your regulatory dossier or really long document, and then they come back with questions, and you have like 90 days to reply back to all of their questions, and you can go back and forth several times with that. And then finally, in 2024, we got FDA clearance via 510(k). So really long process for what we thought was a pretty straightforward device. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the clinical testing that we did. So basically, once we mostly locked all of our components, the structure, the form factor, and of course our belt, we just wanted to test all that again on babies to have that stamp of approval, and then hopefully we would do data analysis, publish this manuscript, and then have that as like support for the use case, like maybe a little bit of like marketing materials when people want to sell this device to hospital administrators, things like that. So this design validation, as I said, we just want to confirm that everything works as intended. So our study questions first was, how does the clinical accuracy of Celsi monitor compare to a reference continuous temperature monitor? And then number 2 was, what are the local effects of the Celsi monitor abdominal belt on newborn skin? So basically trying to do efficacy and safety. And our hypothesis was that we wanted to see a target of measurement error of 0.3 degrees C, and it will not cause more than minor skin irritation. So to be able to do this, we did this study in Nairobi, Kenya. So of course, we can't just go and like get there and be like, let us test this device. This was a collaboration that took a while to set up. And then once we were there, we definitely relied on our partners to kind of like open the way for us to be able to get this study done. And then this is our study timeline, which is kind of still ongoing. And this is our study team. Just wanted to provide some real faces of people. And here I wanted to give a plug to Natalie Mitchell, which she is also an alumni. She was a Global Health Fellow from 2021 to 2023. So we traveled to Kenya together. That was super fun. Tea time is really important. So we worked in the morning, and then we took our tea break, and then we went back to work. This is a picture of Natalie and our biomedical engineer setting up a study office at Kenyatta National Hospital. And then we also had some fun. So we went on a weekend safari, which was super fun, and got to see a giraffe. But anyways, back to work. So as I said before, we wanted to evaluate the accuracy and safety of our device. It happened at Kenyatta National Hospital NICU in Nairobi. So we looked at newborns with abnormal temperatures, and you can see the temperature ranges according to axillary temperature. So we had a study nurse every day in the morning go and check the axillary temperatures of everyone, of the babies, and then whoever was eligible, we will approach the mother or guardian to ask for consent. And then once they consented, we could go ahead and start with the study. So we, once the babies were enrolled in the study, we continuously monitored them for temperature for up to 8 hours. So this was our reference thermometer. You can see the Celsi monitoring here. This is just a picture of the setup. This is not actually in the Word, but we had like our little study cart because we needed a computer to log all the data. That's not how the device will work in reality. And then we also had a lot of disinfection stuff because, you know, you always want that. So here you can see, this is one of our training materials, but we had the abdominal belt, and then we had the patient monitor probe put as close to our other temperature probe, our Celsius monitor temperature probe, because we were looking at like the continuous temperature there, and then we wanted to evaluate the measurements over time. Oh yeah, these are the monitors. And then we monitor them for up to 8 hours, and then we removed the belts. The baby went back to the standard of care, and then we checked for 2 hours after probe removal. We just checked the baby's skin to rate like how it looked. Did it develop any irritation? Or maybe it was a little bit red right around probes removal, but then it like faded over time. So these are some of our results. So this is a temperature versus time graph for just one participant. And as you can see, we have the cell monitor and the patient monitor temperatures tracking pretty well, as well as axillary temperature. So we know our device is mostly accurate. And then this is, so the previous graph was just an N of 1. So these are all of the cumulative readings for every baby for the whole duration of monitoring. And this graph is called a Bland almond plot. So it plots the agreement of the readings versus the average of the readings. So ideally, we want to see a lot of points around 0, because that would be the most accurate. But in real life, that doesn't happen. So we see a spread, but mostly good. And then our mean, which is what we mostly care about, it was minus 0.2 degrees C. And does anyone remember our target? 0.3. So yay. And just, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of data points, but we actually have around 260 hours of data and around 1,500 data points. Mostly it's because our patient monitor had a 0.1 degree C resolution. So there are a lot of points that are clustered. So that's why we did the color opacity, which means that the more intense the color, it's a higher density of data. And then finally, for skin irritation after probes removal, as I said, we follow up the babies for up to 2 hours. And ideally, we wanted to see like really low irritation and then a reduction of irritation over time. So we can see that hopefully our cell monitor had less irritation than the patient monitor. And then over time, we had less irritation in comparison, which is good. So our ongoing work, this technology is licensed to a commercial partner or engineering firm for manufacturing and distribution. So we are not the ones with the burden of that. And right now, I think they've made like a first batch of devices, and they're focusing on obtaining approval for use in different countries, which is a whole nother story and a lot of work ahead on that as well. And so I also wanted to touch on the other device that I worked on, but I only had time to give an example of one. So I also worked on this technology called Sosa warmer, which is a thermal management warming mattress that provides thermoregulation via conduction based on the newborn's temperature. So it has like a physiological feedback loop that, depending on the baby's temperature, it adjusts the warmth to be able to, one, do a steady rise of the baby, and two, of course, not overheat the baby. And then again, to give you guys a capsule of how long it takes, this technology was in development since 2014. And then I got to work on it from 2017 to 2019. And then it went a major redesign in 2019. And basically, it's almost going back to the drawing board to try to mostly fit regulatory requirements that we hadn't taken into account at the beginning. And some ongoing work here is we're currently supporting a regulatory body documents and addressing questions from the FDA, because we already did in an FDA submission. So I also wanted to leave you guys with some lessons learned about my career so far, and hopefully getting to encourage you guys. maybe set some reality for you guys as you are in college and or about to head out to real life. So one device related. So the work that we do is really hard, but it has a high impact. And I like to say that it just takes a lot of creativity, because I feel like it takes a certain amount of work to create something, but to create something with like all of these constraints, it's like a different set of skills that you need, but it's also a lot of fun. Device development takes many years. I definitely went into my fellowship hoping that it would just be a 2-year process, like getting to learn a lot. But I did learn a lot, but it just took so much more time. And a lot of the times it was doing just a lot of manual stuff, which was probably writing documents. Um, and then some other things, understand your user, ask questions, and it requires a lot of humility to admit what you don't know. And sometimes that's good, because that's when you get to ask questions and engage and collaborate with other people. Remember your why, because I think, especially for us working in Houston, trying to help people in the other side of the world, it can get really hard to just put it into perspective and make it something really tangible. So remembering why, and especially that's why they encourage us to travel and to get to meet our partners, because those relationships really are the ones that just forge you as you go. And seek local partnerships and keep them updated with the process, because a lot of times we see students, they get this like real challenge and they are all excited and they talk to this person this one time, and then they just take that as gospel truth and they like never went back and like check their assumptions with them. And then some professional development. I got to learn what it is to be a real engineer, and a lot of the times it is not in the lab, 3D printing stuff, even though probably Amber still gets to do that. Sometimes it's communication, is giving a talk, is coding graphs. So just learn to love whatever aspect, all the aspects of your work. Learn how to be professional, oral and written communication. And I didn't realize that engineering project management was probably the most useful class that I took. So pay attention if you're in that class. And then written communication, from like learn how to write emails to write memos and FDA submissions, things like that. You learn to become the subject matter expert in your work. So this comes with a lot of responsibility, but it gives you a lot of like agency, right? So as I was the person working on my project, I mean, I was the only person working on my project, which meant I was the program manager, I was the engineer, I was the coder, I was all of it, but I got to inform that to our bosses to ask for guidance, or just confirm that a certain way was the way that we should go. So just to encourage you that you do get to become that, and then that gives you agency to propose things to how to move forward. Documentation, which I did not expect I will be saying this and writing this in a talk 7 years after I graduated. But especially when there is high turnover as us, we have 2-year terms with our fellows. We are really trying to encourage them to document everything. Like, this is the design decision that I made. This is why we made it. And these are the links to go buy it if you need to redo it. So that is just really helpful. And then like at the end, when you're preparing these FDA submissions, you have to go back to track your work. So that is just super important. Data analysis and data visualization. Actually, one of the professors that I did research under, he told me you can have the best results in the world and the best data, but if you don't know how to present it, you didn't do anything. So just think about that when you're doing your work, how can you best present it and to a way that is easy to digest to other people. And at the end, it's all about people, even though you're a STEM major. So be willing to explore and connect with other cultures and contexts and communication, partnerships, your network, the end users, and then in my case, the babies. So it's all about people in the end. So we can be focused on a piece of material, but at the end, it affects people. And I think that's where we should be focused on. So I asked my team to share a sentence that you could tell your younger self. So I'll just let you guys read it. I wrote this one, by the way. Um, Can you give me a thumbs up when you've written most of them? Okay. Well, and then finally, if you are interested in any of the things that I talked about, we have some opportunities at my institute and beyond. So for undergraduates, we hold an annual design competition. It is for global health innovations related. So you can tell your professor that you want to do a global health problem so you can come to our design competition. Applications are still open in case there's anything that you guys are working on. And then we have the post-baccalaureate fellowship at Rice 360. It is a 1 year with a possibility of a second year extension. And again, you get to do medical device development at different stages and just learn from our team. The applications for 2025 are still open, so you can probably make it if you want. And then finally, we have a global medical innovation master's program that we collaborate a lot. It's a 1 year MS that helps you and really provides a well-rounded preparation for the medical device industry specifically. And that one doesn't necessarily have to be for global health. You just learn a lot of different things that can be applicable. So I'll leave this slide up at the end. But yeah, so that concludes the formal part of our presentation. Now I'll be glad to take any questions. Thank you.
So you mentioned you had to get FDA clearance. Are there any other legal processes like patenting or trademarking for the Celsius monitor?
Yeah, so I'm not privy to the conversations of why we didn't go with a patenting process for these technologies. I assume that is because we just want these technologies to be like a public good and not to make money out of it necessarily. That being said, because we are in a university, we did develop like an invention. So we like our institute disclosed that to Rice University, and we had to work on some paperwork for that. And then they're like the Office of Technology Transfer at Rice worked with our engineering firm to license the technology. So there is some paperwork in there. And yeah, like learning that basic boilerplate language to protect yourself or to just be knowledgeable of that, I think it's something that can be really helpful for your career. Yeah. Yeah. I would say I'm not sure how, like right now, how much like this unit is being sold for. I think we can think about maybe like $250 versus like at least like $1,000 or $2,000. Yeah.
Also be sold in larger commercial markets, and then you can
Yes.
expenditures by making money off of other areas or something.
That's a great point. So we have received FDA clearance, which what that means is that we can technically sell it in the US. So some of the things that have been thought about is like rural areas or even just like clinics to be able to like measure temperature. Um, I'm not sure if we're doing any of that yet, but also in the global health world, sometimes there's this list of Gavi countries, which are like the middle and low income countries that like someone at the WHO selected. So you can just do like a price breakdown for whoever is on the Gavi country list, and then if they're not, yeah. Thank you. Great question. Yeah.
You mentioned one of the challenges to designing power plant. I'm just curious how resilient is it to blackout?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think like most of the thing that we wanted to put on is just a surge protection inside the device that will protect like the electronics or like the motherboard. And then I think overall the fact that that it is battery powered is that it could be used whenever there is no power. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
So, you said you guys didn't make it yourself, but you like sourced it some like an engineering firm. So like what did that look like? Like what options are there for manufacturing the product?
Yeah, so basically we were like I would say we were like the inventors, and out of like the whole device development process, we were kind of like the R&D, like just get to a first prototype, talk to some doctors and nurses and end users, see if there is a need for it and if people are interested in the device, which sometimes that can be done like in-house. For example, Medtronic probably has that inside um, their company. And then because we are like a global health institute and more like a smaller company or institute, we outsource the manufacturing. So basically, someone else that already has all of the permissions for manufacturing can do that. So they are the manufacturer of record, but we still hold the IP for it because it's licensed. Yeah. Yes, yes. So they are like a full-time job, so we do pay you for it. And you get benefits as well. So it's a full job. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. I think the Celsi monitor in particular stemmed from the Celsi warmer project because that one was actually worked on like even way before. But so it used to be like an incubator. That was like the first project. And we still wanted to have that physiological control loop. And part of that is to be able to read and like read the temperature and display it. So we were like, why don't we work on that like little part first, see if we can make a device out of it, and then embed that in like the bigger project. Thank you guys.
Here. No? Cafe. Catch up with us there. See there's Sonya there as well. Let's give Sonya some more love. Time.
Thank you. Yeah, can we take a picture?
Sure.
Oh, yes. Good to see you.
Listen to you.
Wait, let's take a picture. Can you take a picture of us? This is my friend Sydney. She came with me.